How's it going, YouTube? So I had thought about making a video why I'm into radios and just a little bit about me and kind of like an introduction to who I am and what's my purpose here on YouTube. I see that I have some subscribers and some people have told me they wanted to see me make more videos, so I just been thinking about that here for a little bit, and I grabbed the phone and pushed record, so I'm now making a video. So I'm just going to kind of give you an understanding of why I'm into radios, how I got into radios, why do I like radios, just general information and within kind of all that on my YouTube page. My name's Jeff, and hi Jeff. No, I'm just kidding. Alright. Yeah, so I got into radios obviously when I was a child, and it had something to do with phones. And I'm 27 years old, and let's take a look at Nokia phones, because we all remember Nokia phones. Yeah, remember these? Maybe not that one. Let's see if I can find my old phone. I think this kind of looked right. Y'all remember these? Well, when I was a teenager, this is the phones they had. There was no smartphones. There wasn't even flip phones. Like, seriously, like this is the type of phones they had. I mean, this was as best it's gonna get. There wasn't even color. It was just green. And then when color finally, it's like phones, or and I'm 27, okay. There's people right now that's older than me that had, like, oh, I remember when there was black and white TV and they switched to color. Like, yeah, that was way before your time. Well, I understand that, but this is kind of in my generation where I could actually say, I remember where there was black and white phone, or not black and white phones, there was colorless phones that had no color on the display. It was just green. And I actually remember this. And then the phones came along a little ways, and there was phones that started, technology was coming along. We had phones with color. They were flip phones. And they had a camera, and when you had to text someone, you had to hit 888-442, and you have to wait 2 seconds for the space, and yeah, y'all all remember that too, right? So this is kind of an idea about two-way radios when it comes to bubble pack walkie-talkies from Walmart. Of course, at this time era in my life, I think I was around 12, 13, 14 years old. So, two-way radios, obviously, I had one when I was a teenager, and I had a lot of fun with it. All my friends in the neighborhood had two-way radios. There was even what they call a crime watch, where all the parents and neighbors in the neighborhood, they had two-way radios, and you could hear a lot of people on different channels. So, growing up without a phone, because, my dad would not buy me one of these phones. Matter of fact, only the cool kids had phones in school, and I had a walkie-talkie. Not funny. Seriously. We were poor. All the cool kids had phones like this. And in my backpack, I had a walkie-talkie. And if you're part of some of the poor people in school, you had walkie-talkies too. And you would talk around school with your friends and after school, and it was unique because the schools had two-way radios, and after school you see all the kids pull out their two-way radios, and then some of the cooler kids, they pulled out their phones, and so that was kind of an experience being about 12, 13, 14 years old. That's how I got into the hobby of the amateur radio world, which I have an amateur radio call sign. It's Kilo Golf 5 Whiskey Foxtrot Victor. I'll get into that probably in another video, how difficult it was to get your ham license. It wasn't difficult, but I will get into that in another video. My GMRS call sign is WQWG712. So when I was a teenager, of course, it's all about PlayStation. Yeah, no, it's PlayStation 3, and I'm kind of outdated right now. I'm cheap, that's why. And it works. I have video games. I still have a good time. There's still people online. So I just like to wait until it gets cheap. Okay, that's just me. I don't like paying $500 for a system just because that's where everybody's switching over and it's the new thing. You know, it's like MySpace. Like, I liked MySpace. MySpace was awesome. You know, you can click on your page and, you know, people had layouts. You could literally customly design your MySpace. Have music on project playlists. You can order your songs. You could choose what song you wanted whenever someone clicked on your page. You could order friends. And, you know, this is just good memories. I'm just looking at these phones, okay? Just looking at these phones. Talking about MySpace. Yeah, good memories. You know, now it's all about smartphones and Facebook. And, I mean, I'm not going to lie. I mean, it's, you know, it's good that we have technology. You know, there's an app for everything pretty much, and I'm not denying it. I'm not obsessed about it. You know, I just had good memories with these phones, and I've had good memories with two-way radios. I even missed the PlayStation 1, but would I play it still today? Only one game, Gran Turismo 1, but you know, I'm not going to sit here. I prefer to play the PlayStation 4. But there's always room in my heart for two-way radios. I'm never going to give up this hobby. It's just, I enjoy it. My dad, when I was about 14 years old, I had asked my dad, can you buy me a PlayStation 2 for Christmas? He said yes. When I opened up my present, it was a freaking two-way radio. It was a CB radio. And I was like, what is this? And he was like, this is a CB radio. So I was like, but I wanted a PlayStation. Oh, I got over it because he knew I was in the radios. Bubble pack ones, and this was just a whole new experience. And he said, hey, this is part of my lifetime, and I'd like to share the experience with you. I made some contacts with truckers, and, you know, I was always trying to get out further. And my dad says, if you want to get out further, you need to get your antenna higher or get a bigger antenna and put more power out. And so, out of desperation, started building my own antennas. I have been building antennas with coax cables, and coat hangers, spiral notebook, rings, you name it. I've probably tweaked and twisted and bent all kinds of antennas. I've tried making satellite dish antennas, which would probably today be considered as a Yagi or directional antenna. So, yeah, I've had some experimental experience with building antennas as a teenager, or really a kid, that didn't even know what he's doing, but just the curiosity of the mind, and, you know, it was pretty interesting. So, I got on the school bus and realized they had two-way radios. They had just put radios inside the buses. They used to not have radios. And they had these Motorola radios. Matter of fact, they had the same one right here. Actually, they actually had Max Tracks. And then they put these in. This was like their upgrade later on when I got to high school. But they actually used the Max Tracks, the ones that you program with DOS box, old Windows 98 computers. Yeah, so, you're probably wondering what this is. This is my router. And I watch a lot of YouTube videos, so, yeah, I'd rather be safe than sorry, so, yeah. Never know. It's bad enough I talk on radios, okay, so the 5G, and, you know, I don't know, I'm just going to wrap it up. Maybe that, I do notice I was getting some interference whenever I was scanning through some of the channels. I'd get interference from this thing, but since I put aluminum, I'm not hearing that interference anymore, so I think that does help a little bit. So, yeah, so that's how I got into radios. School buses had two-way radios, and, man, they were crystal clear. And I was like, I asked the bus driver, I said, man, how do y'all talk so far? Like, on a CB, I don't even get near the coverage, and this sounds really clear. And he was saying, oh, that's because it's FM. And the radio you're talking on CB, that's AM. So you're going to hear a lot more trash and static, and, you know, it's not going to be as strong. And I was like, oh, really? And he was like, yeah, and plus we're on a repeater system. And I was like, oh, is that some type of cellular device? Like a cellular system? And he was like, no, it's actually radios. There's two radios paired up together with an antenna that's in a really high spot. And it's able to communicate to all the radios for good signal. That's why we have good signal talking to all the other radios. And I was like, really? And he was like, yeah, instead of talking radio to radio, we talk to the radio to the tower talks back to the radios. And I was like, wow, that is so cool. I wish I had a radio like that. So, you know, because they all get, you know, I was like, how far do the radios go? He says, man, the higher the antenna, the further you can talk. And so he got me really interested when he told me that. Like, this was like, you know, the beginning of my journey with radios. And of course, you know, I got older, and, you know, I was going through high school and graduating, and pretty much just went on with my life without radios. And then one day I went to a pawn shop. I was in a pawn shop. I don't know what I was doing in a pawn shop, but I saw two of these radios. Not these. The CP200s. I think they were a 4-channel. One was a 4-channel, one was a 16. No, it wasn't the XLS. There was two of them with 2 gang chargers and 2 side microphones for $125. And these were the same ones they were using at school that were on a repeater system. And I was like, wow, like, I didn't really need that, but something just was inside me. I wanted to buy those radios, just to play with them, tweak them. I thought about buying a programming cable, or I didn't even know how to program them. But I went ahead and did some research on YouTube, and I found this guy named Alpha Omega or something like that, the Echo Alpha, and he actually has a channel showing you how to program them. You gotta buy cable, and so I pretty much followed all of his instructions, and I was able to achieve the software from him, which is actually the same software I have on my desktop from years ago. He had shared it on like a file share, and I had downloaded off the internet, and yeah, so I was able to program this radio by myself, but I had no clue how to program it. Like, I didn't even know what the CSQ, TPL, DPL, I didn't even know what that stuff was. And I had done some research on Google, and I thought, well, I'm just going to put the GMRS frequencies in there and just pair them up so they can talk, because the two radios, they were unable to talk. So once I figured out about the COM port, restarting the computer, and I got all that stuff narrowed down, I landed on the GMRS channels, and then I went on Wikipedia, because that's where I got the frequencies, and I noticed it said channel 15 through 22 is repeater, and I was like, oh, no, that's what I need to get on. I remember that guy telling me about that. And then I saw the 141.3, and I happened to put the 141.3, but for some strange reason, it wasn't working. I wasn't keying up the repeater, and I started hearing people talking real clear, and I just knew they were on the repeater, but I didn't know how to get on. So I went on Google, and I was trying to type in, like, just trying to figure out how to get on that repeater system. I came across a forum that says you have to do a 5 megahertz split, and once I did that 5 megahertz shift with the tones, and I say, oh my gosh, I keyed up the repeater. I was so happy. This was like magic, and ever since then, boom, man, I've been always in the radios. So yeah, I've been using these radios, and there was even a time I lost my job, you know, and I didn't even have a way to talk to my wife. So I had those two radios, and I did have them paired up to the repeater, and man, we were able to talk on that thing for almost a whole month. It was just amazing, and with the crystal clear coverage, it was just so useful. And yeah, so I've always been in the radios, you know. And you know, of course, now I'm a truck driver, and I used to drive over the road, but now I do local, so I just drive local. And you know, in the meanwhile, this is my hobby. I got an amateur radio license, which I guess I'll talk about that in the next video. But anyways, this is who I am, and this is why I'm in the radios, and just sharing you all my experience and how I got into radios. Of course, I've used radio CB, I've used GMRS, but I've never knew anything about repeaters. If it wasn't for that bus driver telling me about it, and also if it wasn't for me buying these two CP200s, or buying two CP200s at a pawn shop, and then YouTubing the video how to program them, and then the guy, you know, then he gave me the software, and then I Googled it and done some research, and now I'm on the air. Then it took me from GMRS to getting a license to someday I was talking about getting a ham license, and then finally going off and doing that. So I guess I'll have another video for that coming here shortly. But in the meanwhile, catch y'all later.